Welcome back. Harlan Coben is known, admired, and in some cases beloved for the shocking twists and turns in his best-selling mystery novels and his Netflix series. Now, Coben is turning his attention to the world of true crime. And here's a preview of Harlan Coben's final twist, which premieres tonight on a most excellent network known as CBS.
He's the greatest thriller writer.
Coben's written over 30 New York Times bestsellers.
With over a dozen hit TV shows and movies.
In all our stories, the same question: what made the killer cross that line?
Here is some of my conversation with Coben, which occurred earlier today. Cliches are shop-worn, but also true, Harlan. The cliche is fact is stranger than fiction. For you in this particular endeavor, it's very meaningful.
Yeah, it's a strange, but it's obviously true. Fact is stranger than fiction. In these stories that we're doing on Final Twist, if I had written them in a novel and you had read that novel, Major, you'd be throwing the book in my head saying, this is so unrealistic. There's no way this can possibly be. These twists and turns make no sense. Fiction has to follow certain rules, but reality doesn't. So these stories are actually crazier in many ways. And they're twists and turns that I, who normally can spot them a million miles away, never see coming because it's real.
Because human beings are more varied, more interesting, more complex, and also more banal and more predictable than something you might invent.
I think that's right. I mean, I think it's part of the human condition. We also put ourselves in the boat. So I'll always get, not nasty necessarily emails, but I have a show right now on Netflix called Runaway, for example. And I'll get, oh, wait, this couldn't happen, that couldn't happen. But believe me, nothing that I've ever written in any novel is as strange as the stories that we're telling on this TV show. And these are all real. You have that gravitas when it's reality, where you can't say, oh, that couldn't happen. It did happen.
And you mentioned the word show. Is there a showy part to this telling, or is this a victim-based, try to elevate their voice, their agency, their story element?
I mean, I think it's both. I think it's more the latter. I think if you're telling the best story that you can, this is true crime. And so there are real victims. But if I'm telling the best story I can, it has to not only stir your mind and stir your pulse, make you lean forward because you want to know that next twist, but it has to stir your heart. And it was really important to me that, with Final Twist, my name's on it. Harlan Coben's Final Twist, that we give voice and agency to the victims and the families. I think it's an important part of it. But strangely enough, it also strengthens the story, because if you care about the people, you're going to care about the story that much more. So one doesn't have to preclude the other.
When I started my career, Harlan, I was a police reporter in Amarillo, Texas, then Las Vegas, Nevada, and briefly in Houston, Texas. And one of the more challenging parts of that job was to deal face-to-face with victims very soon after something tragic happened to them, either accidentally or as a result of a crime. And that human connection in that moment is something you never forget. In these cases, you're a bit removed from that, but I'm sure some of that visceral emotion comes to you.
Well, it does. The first episode is called Billy and Billy. It's about a young couple. His name is Billy. Her name is Billie Jean. And they're found murdered in their home, and their baby's there, alive, thank goodness. But the baby is left there at home in Tennessee. And then when you start getting into the details, is it a CIA agent? Is it a social media post? What is it? And that's a different question. But if you don't feel for these people, this story is not one that I would want to tell. And it's deeply moving. It's deeply affecting. And I hope, it was really important to me, that we give these people a voice and that you get to know, by the end of this show, I think you will know Billy, and you'll know Billie Jean, and you'll know their family and friends. You'll know the police officers involved. We try not to have too much narration. I step in and will help lead it along a little bit, but we don't have a narrator's voice. We wanted the people involved to tell the story for this show.
And in this endeavor, are you a clinician of crime? Are you a clinician of the justice system? Are you a clinician of law enforcement techniques? What are you trying to achieve?
I think it's all the above. I think one of the things that I don't think I'm guilty of it, frankly, as a fiction writer, but a lot are, is we've made police work seem really sort of simple. And, they go into a crime scene now and they find a hair and they capture the killer. And that's not what happens. And so you're really able to see the human mistakes, the frailty of our system, both in terms of law enforcement, in terms of legalese, in terms of the justice system, as well as, what the families kind of go through. Some of these stories, we have a number of different episodes, but some of them, it took over 20 years to solve the crime. That's not that uncommon. We, again, think today it's very, very easy. How come the cops don't just do this and they can't just check the Ring camera, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of complexity to it. And I hope we're also showing that. There's a lot of things I kind of want out of this show. I mean, it's called Final Twist because the shows do have a final twist. When you find out what happened to Billy and Billy, your jaw's going to drop. It's just ridiculous, incredible. But these are also real people. And you have to reflect that as well. So it's a balancing act that I hope we're accomplishing.
Let's say the name one more time. Harlan Coben's Final Twist premieres tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern on CBS, and will be available to stream on Paramount+. You can also see my full 30-minute conversation with Harlan Coben on our YouTube channel.